picture this. It's the dead of night. You've just stepped out onto your front porch to, I don't know, grab a delivery, and the heavy front door clicks shut behind you.
Oh.
Yeah, your heart just sinks, right? You reach into your pockets, and you come up completely empty. You are locked out. Naturally, you pull out your phone, you type locksmith near me into Google, and you tap the very first number that pops up. But what happens next could either be a quick professional fix or a highly orchestrated extortion tactic.
And honestly, once you do finally get back inside, it really begs an even bigger question about your overall security. I mean, can a $500 safe really protect what matters most? Or is it just expensive peace of mind?
Exactly. And that is the entire mission of today's deep dive. We're taking you inside the secret mechanics of the locksmithing industry. We're going to unpack the sophisticated digital networks behind these local service scams, decode the magic behind modern smart lock ecosystems, and ultimately break down the heavy-duty differences between a cheap metal box and a $50,000 vault.
It's a huge shift, going from the immediate panic of a lockout straight into the highly engineered reality of long-term physical security.
It really is. But before we get into the weeds, this deep dive is brought to you by West Point Locksmith. Fast, reliable, and professional locksmiths serving all of Los Angeles. From emergency lockouts to rekeying, smart locks, and car key replacements, they're available 24/7 to keep your home, business, and vehicle secure. Check out their 5-star reviews and call them at 310-295-4040.
That's 310-295-4040.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the dark side of the industry. Give us a macro view of how this lead generation scam actually operates on a technical level.
Yeah, so the sophistication of these scam networks is staggering because it relies heavily on exploiting local search engine optimization and the Google Maps API.
So it's not just like guys putting flyers on windshields anymore.
Not at all. We're talking about overseas call centers that use virtual phone numbers and mass generate fake business listings. They literally manipulate the API to drop hundreds of phantom map pins across a single city.
Wow.
So when you search for a local shop, you see a pin that looks like it's just 3 blocks away from your house. But it's probably pointing to an empty dirt lot or like a fast food drive-thru.
Wait, so when you dial that local-looking number, you aren't even talking to someone in your zip code.
You are almost certainly talking to a massive dispatch center halfway across the world. Notice that they rarely answer the phone with a specific company name. They'll just say locksmith or dispatch.
Right.
And this is where the psychological trap is really set. They'll quote you a highly optimized, artificially low price over the phone. Usually it's somewhere between $35 and $50 for a service call.
Let me stop you right there because the math on that makes zero sense. I mean, how could anyone afford to drive a vehicle to your house at 2 in the morning, perform a skilled trade, and drive back for $35?
It is financially impossible, which is exactly the point. The $35 is strictly the bait to keep you from calling anyone else.
So it's the sunk cost fallacy.
Exactly. By the time the supposed technician actually arrives, and they're often an hour late, driving an unmarked personal sedan like a Nissan Altima, just wearing plain clothes, you're cold, you're tired, and you just want to go to bed. You are already committed.
And the arrival is when the extortion funnel really kicks into gear, right?
Yeah.
One of the undercover news schemes we reviewed showed this tactic perfectly. The hidden cameras captured a quote-unquote technician showing up to a standard residential quickset lock.
Yeah.
Now, quickset makes fine hardware, but a standard residential deadbolt is incredibly easy for a trained professional to pick.
Oh, absolutely.
Yet this guy looks at the door and immediately claims it's a high-security commercial lock.
That is the standard script. They have to invent a technical hurdle to justify an immediate, massive price hike.
Right, so in this video, the guy spends a mere 52 seconds just kind of half-heartedly poking at the keyway before giving up, reaching for his power drill, and completely destroying the lock. And then he tries to charge the homeowner $185 for the privilege of ruining their door.
It's infuriating. Drilling a standard residential lock should always be an absolute last resort. But for a scammer, drilling accomplishes 2 goals. First, it makes the job seem incredibly difficult and dramatic, which, justifies the inflated invoice.
And second,
it leaves you with a destroyed lock, meaning you are now forced to buy a replacement directly from them right there on the spot.
and the markups on those replacements are criminal. There was this nightmare scenario on a Reddit thread where a user was locked out at 3 in the morning. The guy shows up, drills the lock into oblivion, and hits the user with a $250 bill.
Unbelievable.
But it gets worse. Then he demands another $95 and insists it be paid to a completely separate personal Zelle account just to install a replacement lock.
Yeah.
And when we looked up the replacement brands mentioned, like LSDA or Kennard, we're talking about bottom-of-the-barrel hardware that retails for maybe $12.
What's fascinating here is the reaction from the actual legitimate locksmith community. True professionals consider these bad actors to be absolute parasites. The Federal Trade Commission and the BBB strongly advise that you find a reputable local locksmith, check their actual brick-and-mortar reviews, and save their number in your phone today.
Don't wait for an emergency.
Exactly. The middle of a midnight crisis is the worst possible time to be vetting a contractor.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because the contrast between a scammer pulling a drill out of a sedan and a genuine professional is night and day. A real locksmith setup isn't just a toolbox, it is essentially a highly engineered mobile fortress.
A professional mobile workshop represents a massive capital investment. We are looking at high-top commercial vans like a Renault Traffic or a Dodge ProMaster. The technician needs to be able to stand up straight and work inside.
Right.
Outfitting the interior with modular, crash-tested shelving, workbenches, and secure locking storage boxes easily runs around $25,000 before you even buy a single tool.
Let's talk about those tools, actually, because looking at the equipment manifest, it is incredibly high-tech. They carry precision key-cutting machines like the Silca Futura or the Triton Plus, which could digitally decode and cut a high-security key with laser precision. But the gear that really caught my eye is for the automotive side.
The programmers.
Yeah. They have these expensive programming tablets, like the Autel or Smart Pro, paired with something called a leashy pick. How does a leashy pick actually work compared to just jiggling a standard lockpick?
A leashy tool is a masterpiece of modern lock bypass engineering. It doesn't rely on random raking or jiggling at all. A leashy pick is a two-in-one tool designed specifically for vehicle ignitions and doors. When a technician inserts it, the tool features a highly calibrated exterior scale.
Okay.
And the technician uses a tiny articulated arm to feel the internal wafers of the lock one by one. They aren't just opening the door, they are literally mapping the exact depth of every single wafer inside that cylinder.
So they're essentially reverse engineering the physical key just by feeling the inside of the door lock?
Precisely. Once they map those depths, they can type those measurements into their Triton Plus machine and cut a brand new factory spec key from scratch without ever taking the car door apart.
That is wild.
That's why the industry consensus is that an all-keys-lost job in AKL is 80% skill using the Lucy tool to decode the physical lock, and only 20% pushing buttons on the Autel tablet to program the digital transponder chip.
And that explains why an AKL job can pay upwards of $300.
Oh.
I mean, if you lose your modern smart key, the dealership is going to make you tow the car to their lot and charge you a fortune. A mobile locksmith literally brings the entire factory to your driveway.
And beyond the technical mastery, legitimate locksmiths prioritize strict vetting. When a professional arrives, they don't just start picking. They require a photo ID, they check the vehicle registration, or they ask for a utility bill. They have to prove you actually have the legal authority to enter that property.
I noticed that culture of integrity extends online, too. Companies like CLK Supplies host these Lock Boss trivia giveaways on YouTube, which really fosters a community where professionals share complex bypass techniques and constantly try to raise the bar for the trade. So what does this all mean for you?
Right, taking security into your own hands.
Exactly. If you're listening to this, you might be looking at smart locks to bypass keys entirely. Let's synthesize the options.
The smart lock market has matured rapidly. We are no longer dealing with clunky novelties. These are highly reliable security appliances. But the market is heavily fragmented. Choosing the right one requires you to synthesize your daily habits with the specific wireless protocols you already use in your house.
Let's break down the major contenders based on those protocols. I was looking at the breakdown for the Schlage Connect, and I see it uses something called Z-Wave. What exactly makes Z-Wave different from just connecting a lock to my home Wi-Fi?
That's a vital distinction. Wi-Fi requires a lot of power, which drains lock batteries quickly, and it can actually bog down your home network router. Z-Wave is a low-energy, wireless mesh network designed specifically for smart home devices.
So it doesn't talk to the router directly?
No, it talks directly to a smart hub, like a Ring alarm base station. The Schlade Connect leverages this perfectly. It is built like an absolute tank, the battery life is incredibly reliable, and it seamlessly triggers your home alarm.
The trade-off, based on the reviews, is that the Schlade Connect is notoriously noisy when the deadbolt motor turns, and the interior mechanism is pretty bulky. On the other hand, we have the Kwikset 916, which also uses Z-Wave, but its big selling point is Kwikset's smart key technology.
The Smart Key Cylinder is a brilliant mechanical feature. It allows you to insert your current existing house key, use a small learning tool, and physically rekey the new smart lock to match your old key in about 10 seconds.
Wow, so if you want to maintain one single physical key for your front door, back door, and garage, it is incredibly convenient. But the downside there is a touchscreen. Reviewers constantly point out that the Kwikset screen shows oily fingerprint smudges, which means anyone looking at your door can probably guess which 4 numbers make up your passcode. How do you solve that?
You solve it with dynamic displays, which brings us to the Lockly Secure Pro. This lock uses direct Wi-Fi, but its crowning achievement is a patented technology called the PIN Genie. Instead of a static keypad, the digital numbers constantly shuffle and change their physical positions on the screen every single time you wake it up.
So even if someone is staring directly over your shoulder or using a UV light to look for fingerprint smudges later, the physical location of the numbers is meaningless. That's a phenomenal piece of engineering.
It really is. But if you want to move away from passcodes entirely, you look at biometric solutions. The Aquara U100 is widely considered the budget-friendly champion in this space. It features a lightning-fast fingerprint sensor, and crucially, reviewers note it works flawlessly even if your hands are sweaty, which is traditionally the Achilles heel of biometric readers. Plus, it integrates with Matter.
Matter is the new universal language for smart homes, right? Meaning it will talk to Google, Alexa, or Apple devices without needing a proprietary bridge.
Correct. It completely bridges the ecosystem gap.
Which brings us to the ultimate ecosystem lock, the Schlage Encode Plus. This is a Wi-Fi lock built entirely around Apple HomeKey. The teardowns describe it as a magical, effortless setup. You literally just tap your iPhone or your Apple Watch to the deadbolt using the NFC chip, and the door opens. You don't need a code, you don't need a fingerprint, you just need your watch.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, upgrading your front door with a smart lock is excellent for access control. But what happens when you need to protect the absolute most sensitive, irreplaceable items inside that home? Cash, jewelry, legal documents. This brings us back to our opening question. Can a $500 safe truly protect you?
Let's break that down, because the terminology in the safe industry is incredibly deceptive. You go to a big box hardware store, you see a massive steel box for $500, and it looks impenetrable.
Yeah.
But the technical manuals classify these merely as RSCs. What exactly is an RSC?
RSC stands for Residential Security Container. The name itself is a legal distinction to separate it from a true safe. An RSC is typically constructed from 12-gauge or 14-gauge sheet metal. To put that in perspective, 14-gauge steel is less than 1/10 of an inch thick. An RSC is designed to keep curious children away from dangerous items or to deter a smash-and-grab burglar who only has a pry bar and 5 minutes to spare.
So essentially, an RSC keeps honest people honest, but against a determined attacker with a battery-powered angle grinder, it's going to yield. And what about the fire ratings on these budget options?
That is another area of immense compromise. Many budget RSCs use fire lining, which is often just pieces of standard drywall gypsum boards stuffed between the thin metal layers.
Wait, really? Just drywall?
Just drywall. When heated, the moisture in the drywall turns to steam and cools the interior. It works for a short burst, but is a far cry from a true commercial fire safe. A genuine fire safe uses meticulously poured proprietary composite insulation. It is rigorously tested to maintain a low internal temperature for 30 minutes to 2 hours in a sustained raging inferno, guaranteeing that paper documents don't spontaneously combust.
Okay, so if the RSC is the entry-level option, what does a true commercial vault look like? Who actually needs a $50,000 safe?
We are moving completely away from sheet metal and entering the realm of solid plate steel and specialized UL ratings, specifically Underwriters Laboratories ratings like TL15 and TL30.
TL stands for tool resistant. So what does a TL15 rating actually guarantee?
It guarantees time. A TL15 safe has been tested by professional veteran engineers who possess the actual blueprints of the safe. They attack the door and front face using a massive array of heavy power tools, carbide drills, grinders, and abrasive cutting wheels. The 15 means it will withstand a continuous, nonstop physical attack for a minimum of 15 full minutes of actual tool-on-metal time.
That distinction of tool-on-metal time is huge. That doesn't mean it takes 15 minutes to break in. It means 15 minutes of the saw blade actively grinding against the steel. The moment they pull the saw back to change a blade, the stopwatch pauses.
Precisely. A TL-30 withstands that brutal engineered attack for 30 minutes. For a common burglar, a TL-30 safe, which often features half-inch thick, solid American-made steel, and glass relockers that intentionally shatter and freeze the locking bolts if someone tries to drill the mechanism, is virtually impenetrable.
So for the average homeowner, a TL-30 is probably overkill unless you're storing hundreds of thousands of dollars in loose diamonds. When do the mid-range options make sense?
A mid-range safe, perhaps a heavy-duty B-rate safe, or a high-end RSC that features verified, poured fire insulation and a commercial-grade digital lock rather than a cheap plastic keypad is the sweet spot. It offers formidable defense against 99% of residential burglaries without requiring you to hire a structural engineer to reinforce your floor joists to hold a 3-ton vault.
The engineering on the commercial-grade locks is incredible, especially when you look at how professionals bypass them when things go wrong. If the electronics die on a TL-rated safe, a professional vault technician doesn't just go in with dynamite.
No, precision is paramount. A true safe technician uses Borescope's tiny fiber optic cameras to look deep inside the lock mechanism. They utilize high-precision magnetic drill rigs to bore a single microscopic hole precisely where it needs to be to hit the internal override lever. Once the safe is open, they tap and thread that hole with a hardened steel taper pin, returning the safe to its original or even higher security rating.
There is a fantastic anecdote from the safe cracking community that illustrates this perfectly. A professional encountered a customer locked out of a Sentry safe. The key mechanism had failed, and the internal battery pack had completely disintegrated from battery acid leakage. A scammer would have pulled out a crowbar and destroyed the box. But this technician noticed the customer had a second, identical working safe in the same room.
And this is where deep technical knowledge replaces brute force.
Exactly. The technician carefully removed the working battery pack from the second safe. Instead of drilling anything, they mapped the circuitry, spliced the live battery wires directly into the broken safe's exterior circuit board, and used the working voltage to pop the electronic solenoid wide open. Zero damage. Pure technical expertise.
Which is why having a trusted professional on speed dial is so critical.
Speaking of which, if you want to upgrade your home to a high-tech smart lock, or you need expert safe and vault services without falling victim to the scams we've discussed, remember our sponsor, West Brent Locksmith. Call them at 310-295-4040. They serve all of Los Angeles with top-tier access control and 24/7 emergency service.
The ultimate takeaway here, whether you are dealing with an emergency lockout or investing in long-term vault storage, is simple. Don't overpay, but don't underprotect. Know what you're really buying.
Let's recap this massive journey. We have navigated the highly manipulated digital extortion networks behind the $35 lockout scams. We've explored the $25,000 mobile workshops where real professionals decode car ignitions using precision leashy tools. We've broken down the Z-Wave and Wi-Fi ecosystems to find the perfect smart lock for your front door, and we've cracked open the heavy metal realities of RSCs versus TL-30 vaults.
It is a profound evolution in how we protect our spaces, but it leaves us with a final, highly disruptive thought to consider. As we rapidly transition our homes from heavy mechanical brass to biometric sensors and cloud-based smart locks, the very definition of lock-picking is transforming.
Yeah, the game is changing.
In the near future, the most dangerous burglars won't be creeping onto your front porch carrying Lucy picks, bump keys, or power drills. They will be sitting halfway across the world with a laptop trying to digitally pick the lock of your Wi-Fi network. Our physical, real-world safety is becoming entirely dependent on our digital hygiene.
That is a chilling reality. The idea that someone could breach your front door from another continent by brute forcing a router password changes everything. Is your Wi-Fi password strong enough to be your deadbolt?
Yeah.
That is definitely something to mull over. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay secure. We'll catch you next time.